Perhaps we start with a short band history, how the band started in the 80s.
Okay, well, I only came into the band about 2 years ago, though, but from the story I know, they got together, basically started hammering out a demo, had a really good idea of what they wanted, and got the deal right away within 6 months with Roadrunner Records. And after that, apparently there was problems between the label and the band, so the old drummer Rick canceled a tour, basically behind everybody else's back, and that was sort of the end of it. Not for the band, but the end of the deal. They got no tour support after that. Well, can't say really blame the label, but at that point, Rick was kicked out of the band, and Psycho left. He wasn't too happy at that point, and they just kept on going, put out a couple of demos, kept shopping for a deal, went through, Chris left for a short period and was replaced by a guy called Vince, and he put out the one demo, and then he kicked him out, and Chris came back, and I picked up the bass, and the only other point of interest was the None Shall Defy, the re-release on CD by Displeased there in '97, and that encouraged the tour, so we came over with Malevolent Creation and Vader and Vital Remains. And when we got back, we got the deal with Tom with Hypnotic, so it's a really good deal there, and off we go. New album just came out, and now we're over in support of it.
In the early days, Infernal Majesty often has been compared to Slayer. What is your comment on this?
Well, I guess a lot of that's just because there weren't too many bands out around that time doing that style of music, so again, there's not too much I can say about it not being there, but from what I heard, I think Rick made that comment at one point, and the bands never got to live it down, so it's just craziness.
How would you describe your style?
Well, just old school thrash. So along the same lines as Slayer and some of the older, Exodus, that kind of stuff, but not sounding like it so much as in the same vein.
Do you know how many copies have been sold of None Shall Defy?
No, actually, it's funny you ask. The band itself, nobody can find that answer out. They keep asking, but they can't get a straight answer out of the record company. So apparently they're hopefully in the middle of doing a final tally, and Roadrunner's going to supply that with the new licensing deal to Displeased for this last year. And apparently the rights are up for just come up again. So Tom expressed an interest in possibly buying it out, and it may be redistributed under Hypnotic. But that's unsure as of yet.
What is the origin of the two bonus songs on None Shall Defy? And why haven't you added the classic 86 demo?
Well, the two bonus songs on it, the Into the Unknown and Hell on Earth, were both put out on, I think it was Nigressant Dissolution, one of the demos they did after, of course, it all went to hell with Roadrunner. And basically, nobody was told about it. They were added on. Ron must have got in touch or got a track or a copy of the demo and just dubbed it to dat, threw it straight on the CD. So the band didn't even find out until it was re-released, and then they heard it and went, huh, hey, look at this, bonus tracks. But the band really, nobody had anything to do with that. That was a deal struck between Displeased and Roadrunner, and the band wasn't consulted. Not that anybody minded, but that was a total separate deal, so we had no say or control over that.
Has the band still existed over all the years, or has there been a time where everybody quit?
Oh no, the band's kept going all the time. Like I say, Chris left for a short period at one point, and the original Rick and Psycho, they originally left right after basically the album was released, and the drummer and it was Kevin Harrison, who was there right up till just before this tour, and the bass player was there right up until just when I stepped in about a year and a half ago. The whole time they were doing, like I say, putting out demos and trying to get some attention from the labels, but because of the past history with Roadrunner, it was a little bit leery. And as I say, the scene in Canada, or basically in North America, isn't that strong to begin with. I mean, it's there, but it's underground, while over here, it's a lot more prevalent where you can tour all the time and people come out and see it. So when we finally got the chance to come over, of course, that started everything up with Hypnotic being interested because they got the results from the tour and yada, 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 so...
Have you got any other offers by any other labels besides Hypnotic?
Oh yeah, there was a bunch of offers that came in right after the tour. I mean, Century Media was interested, Nuclear Blast was interested, Displeased, Ron had told us he was really interested. There was a whole whack of smaller ones that mailed us contracts and things like that. So the reason we went with a Canadian label with Hypnotic was they'd already had a strong record for doing metal all the way up through, with like a Voivod and Anvil, Obituary, Cataclysm, etc., etc. Plus, they're local. It's easy for us to pick up the phone and call them and say if there's a problem or find out what's going on or just talk with our label. It's a local phone call instead of, having to compensate for, say, a 6-hour time difference. We got to stay up till midnight to catch somebody during their office hours, or, it costs you a fortune in correspondence and communication. And to be honest, Tom offered us the best deal, by far the best deal. So, and it's been a pleasure working with him so far. He's done everything he's supposed to, and he's been right there for us 100%.
Your stage outfit really reminds me of the 80s. Do you try to create a certain image for Infernal Majesty with this?
Well, back in the early 80s, or the 80s, like you say, anyway, in the early days of Infernal Majesty, that's the way the band came out. The full leather and studs, the whole stage image as of tonight. When we came over last time, we had a bit of problems getting everything together and bringing it all over. And hence we just went with the jeans and T-shirts. But the one question that everybody asked was, how come you guys didn't bring the leather and studs? And we really regretted it, so we decided, last year when it was over, we said, that's it. When we come back next year, we have to make sure we bring the stuff. So basically, we're not trying to create an image. We're just trying to stick to our own image that we started back in, 87 when it first started up for us.
Last time, as we met in Essen, you told me the story of your former vocalist who got mad or something like that. Perhaps you can tell us the whole story.
Well, that was Vince. He's just basically, he's a little bit offside, to say the least. He's got a history of violence, and he's been in and out, and apparently he's just done something else back home too. He hit his just going crazy, hit his bass player or something. I don't know. Hurt him pretty bad, but yeah. I don't know. It's not a topic we really want to talk about, just because it's a short period of the band's history, and it was a bad period. I mean, it was a definite mistake bringing him in, and we're just glad Chris came back and we got Chris in again. But when Chris left, it was at a time when he was slightly, he was frustrated. I mean, from having the potential of the tour and the album doing well, to the drummer blowing out the tour and saying forget it, and you put out a demo, now nobody's interested, when 2 years ago they were really interested, and he just went, look, I got to take a break. So, as I said, that's a past. We don't even want to talk about him. Nothing personal about him or anything. Just there's no point bringing up the dead past.
In the 80s, Infernal Majesty also had a TV appearance in a heavy metal program or something like that. Perhaps you know anything about it?
Yeah, that's probably the video. Yeah, they did a video for None Shall Defy.
They also have been the video jockeys or something like in a heavy metal program.
Yeah, that was the Canada Has Much Music. It's their version of MTV, and they got 1 hour a week they play heavy metal. And right after the None Shall Defy video was done, they were asked to come down and host it. So they came down. They were supposed to be on for their 15-minute segment, and the VJ said, "Hey, great, why don't you stick around and do the whole show?" So they had a lot of fun there for the hour. But since that, I don't think nothing since, nothing planned.
You already have been on tour with Malevolent Creation in Germany or Europe once, and what reactions and experiences could you gain on this tour?
Well, yeah, last year it was Malevolent Creation, Vader, and Vital Remains, and that was our first European tour for us. In fact, the first large tour period, even in North America. And for us, it really showed us that the scene is alive and well in Europe, and it's great to see, because in North America, it's, as they say, it's so far underground, it's hard to find. But over here, I mean, people come out to the shows every day of the week, and when they get there, they're into it. They're wearing the upside down crosses and the armbands, and they're just into it. There's so much energy. It's great, and it's just, for us, it's so gratifying to see the fans that are, they're there and they're cheering at the end of songs, and they're moshing, and they're having a great time. There's that energy where over in North America, everybody stands around with their beer in their hand and goes, "Oh, well, I'd clap, but my hands are full." So.
On the CD, there stands a slogan, or in the booklet, "The sport of death will entertain the blackened souls who made them slaves." What's the message?
Well, that's actually just a line out of the Roman song. And the Roman song is basically just about, being a gladiator, being forced to be a gladiator back in Roman times. And, it's how entire people would, they live and die at somebody else's whim, thumbs up, they live, thumbs down, they're killed. And it's just basically one of the lines from it, but we thought it was really kind of apt for, basically things coming back on people, I suppose you could say. But, yeah, other than that, you'd have to ask Steve. I think he wrote the lyrics to that one. It's just kind of interesting.
Perhaps we can talk a little bit about the lyrics. You haven't written them, but the song "Unholier Than Thou." Is it about mass suicide by religious motives or something like that?
Yeah, that one's actually, it's about a specific case. Jim Jones in, I think it's 76, in Guyana, in the People's Temple, and he fed, I think it was 900 of his disciples, or his religious cult, and he fed them cyanide one morning, and just did this mass suicide, and he'd invited in the media and to make sure they recorded this. So basically the song's just about Jim Jones and the whole mess. But yeah, I mean, there's the underlying subtext with quite a few of the songs about this, really timid religious obedience, as somebody once put it. It's people willing to just do anything because a charismatic leader tells them, hey, you worship me, and they go, oh, okay. So now you drink this cyanide, and now they're dead. So it's to me, that's stupidity, but if people want to be led, I guess that's their problem.
And perhaps for the song, Where's Your God? Do you think that there is a God?
Well, I wouldn't say there's a specific God. I mean, there's got to be something bigger. What it is, I just can't put a name to it. So, I live my life my own way. If that means I'm going to burn in a proverbial hell, so be it. And I don't know. I just see too much. If you take the religious aspect of a God and they say, okay, well, there's this supreme benevolent being who, if you live a nice life, will let you live in the ever after. If there's a God out there who's so nice, then why is there so much shit going on in the world? I mean, it's an old argument, but I think it kind of proves it to me. And plus, you get two different religions with both, Christ, even Anglicans and Protestants, they both worship the same God, they both read the same Bible, and yet they can't agree on anything, and they're fighting and killing each other in the name of their God. Well, Christ, they're the same people they're praying to. What's their problem? So to me, religion is just a farce. I mean, if you want to believe in God, believe in a God, but I don't have to talk to some guy in a white collar to talk to him.
You recorded the new album in Canada, is that right? Yeah, with Scott Burns?
Part of it. Yeah, the drums and the guitars were all laid down with Scott Burns. That was back in '95, I believe. And at that point, they were basically putting it together and thinking about doing it independently. And that was in the same time Vince was in the band, and that's when Scott listened to Vince singing the vocals and said, no, he's got to go, get Chris back. So they talked to Chris, and, well, later on we talked to Chris about a year or so before the tour, and he was coming back. They were starting to get things together and get ready for that. The rest of it was recorded when we got back from tour that January in Toronto. We used Rob Sanzo, a Toronto engineer. He did really good for the bass vocals, and I guess leads were done by a guy from Oblivion, Pierre. Yeah. And I think Pierre Robillard, or I don't know, out in Montreal, so all the leads. And it was mixed out there and then sent down to LA to be mastered. So it's been a strange one, over 4 years or 3 years and all over the place.
Okay, our program is called What's Metal? What do you think is metal?
Metal lives forever. I mean, sometimes it'll dip underground, but hey, there's people listening to it always. I've still got my 1982 copy of Exodus Bonded by Blood at home.
Okay, do you have any other closing comments? Or anything you want to add?
Well, basically, we're just glad to be back over in Europe where metal's still alive. And I guess we should also mention, I want to say a big thank you to a Vancouver band called Aberration. They just got a new product out, and it's their drummer, Colin, who's come along to help us out tonight. We've had problems with our drummer after the European tour last year, and still looking for a permanent drummer out there. So anybody can send their demos if they like. But Colin and his band Aberration have been a great, great help to us. So he's a really nice guy, and we hope things work for them too.